It is so easy when we open our business. And this is something that I really struggled with when I opened my salon. I always was like, why are all of these things happening to me? It was just like a load of problem after problem after problem after problem. And it wasn't until I actually started to shift my mindset around the way I ran my business, I realized that that is business. Business is just a slew of problems that we as the leader have the answers to solving those problems. Hello and welcome to the Elevate podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Nowakowski. I'm a salon owner, educator, mindset, and leadership coach that helps salon owners go from overwhelmed and burnt out to motivated and empowered. It is my mission to help you systemize your business, generate more profit, and create a career that you love. Join us every week to learn about the small shifts you can make to elevate your business regarding mindset, marketing, social media, business systems, and so much more. I want you to think about how long it has taken you to bounce back from the current situation that you're thinking of. When we talk about resilience, resilience is also something that we need to train our team on. And the reason why we need to have these conversations and coach our team through is our team also deals with a lot of things that are stressful, especially when it comes to clients. And I know that your team members have dealt with difficult clients or things not turning out in the right way. And when we don't give our team the knowledge or the skills to work through or build resilience, it can be detrimental to the way that they actually do business. And the reason why is if it takes them a long time to bounce back from an unhappy client, or let's just say something that is negatively impacting their business, then they are not going to grow as well. And it is something that when we look at like our team, how long does it take them to recover from a bad situation or an unhappy client or messing up somebody's hair? Like these are all things that we have to build resilience around. So when we talk about building resilience, leadership involves developing the ability to adapt to changes, recover from setbacks, and grow stronger over time. And we're going to go over some strategies today on how to help you build resilience as a leader. So when we talk about resilience, it's the ability to bounce back after negative situations happen inside of our business or our life. So when we talk about resilience, on a scale from 1 to 10, I want all of you to rate yourself in resilience, and you can unmute yourself and share if you'd like.
I would rate myself, I'm going to say 6 out of 10. I think I bounce back within, depending on the situation, like a couple of hours to a couple of days. But in the moment, I definitely tend to melt down. So
yeah, I think when we talk about all things in business, it always goes back to reactivity. Like every single time, it goes back to understanding our reactivity. It goes back to understanding how to control and how to push through and to turn that reactive energy and that fear into something proactive. So I think a 6 out of 10 is great. And I think that definitely leaves room for improvements, but it's, again, going to always go back to reactivity. When we talk about building resilience, this is not something we're born with. This is something that has to be cultivated. And it's something that we have to work on, just like we work on technical skills, we work on reactivity, we work on all things to grow who we are as a business owner and as a leader. So one of the ways that we start to cultivate this resilient behavior or resilience to things inside of our business is we really have to switch our mindset from victim mentality into growing and growth mentality. And it is so easy when we open our business. And this is something that I really struggled with when I opened my salon. I always was like, why are all of these things happening to me? It was just like a load of problem after problem after problem after problem. And it wasn't until I actually started to shift my mindset around the way I ran my business, I realized that that is business. Business is just a slew of problems that we as the leader have the answers to solving those problems. And when we shift our mindset into that growth mindset, and we shift it to, how do I solve this problem? it allows us to look at every situation as a way to really kind of just push forward. And it really just helps us look at the issue and ask ourselves, like, what am I learning from this? How is this going to help me grow? How is this going to make me a better leader? How can I put a system or something in place so that this doesn't happen next time? And that is how we cultivate that growth mindset. We have to embrace the challenges that happen in our business because it is something that is never going to go away. And if we don't shift our mindset around embracing the things that are negative, then what's going to end up happening is we're going to end up resenting our business, and then we're going to end up closing, or we're not going to experience the growth that we really want to experience because of that victim mentality. Then it's just, we're not going to push forward. So we have to develop a positive attitude around all of the setbacks that happen inside of our business. Stylists leaving, things getting messed up, things breaking, unhappy clients. These are all things that we have to deal with on a regular basis. If you've been feeling overwhelmed and overworked from owning your salon, you're not alone. If you're like many salon owners, you want to build a salon that makes you feel fulfilled and passionate while bringing freedom and flexibility to your life. You're exhausted from taking on all your business tasks alone, but it doesn't have to be this way. It's time for change. The Elevated Salon Owner Collective will help you do just that. You'll automate your salon, implement solid business systems, transform your salon culture, take charge of your online presence, and regain freedom. Doors officially open, and I'd love for you to experience freedom and fulfillment in your business. To learn more, visit opulentbeautypro.com/elevate or click the link in the show notes. And I think the more we deal with these things, the more resilience we actually obtain and the better and easier it gets. And also, I think too, when it comes to building resilience, I think the ability to let go of the things that do not serve us and that we're not good at is another way to kind of cultivate that ability to kind of like work through things. Like, I know I am not, and I've said this in past trainings, I'm not great at dealing with unhappy customers, especially unhappy customers that I know are wrong. I have no problem with customers that like, I know like my stylist messed up. I have no problem with that. But the customers that like are, just complaining for no reason, like I don't have patience for that. So I hand that off. That's just something that I've learned in my business that I need to do. Okay. So when we develop a positive attitude towards setbacks and failures, viewing them as valuable lessons that contribute to our personal and professional development. So one of the things that really has helped me when it comes to building resilience inside of my business, anytime something bad happens or something quote unquote bad happens, I always look at the situation and I say, what part did I play in this? What is the lesson that I can learn from this that is happening? And how can I make my business better from this experience? And I think when we ask ourselves those three questions, every single time something negative happens in our business, it allows us to build that critical thinking and it allows us to build our business better and stronger. And even if we don't take action on that situation, like say like, oh, I shouldn't have had that conversation or I shouldn't have spoken to my stylist in that way. Like looking back at that situation and asking yourselves, what could I have done differently next? Like, what could I have done differently to get a different result? And that'll help you plan and prepare for the next time. And when situations do arise in that way in the future, then you can handle them much better. And it's the same thing with our reactivity. We can feel reactive moments coming up for the most part, but sometimes it gets the best of us and we take action before we actually have a moment to stop and think. And I think when we look back and we cultivate that growth mindset by asking ourselves like, shit, I think I really fucked up. Like, what could I have done differently? And then that'll give you a plan for the next time. So another thing that is really, really important, and I talk about this all the time, is self-awareness. When we look at what our strengths are in our business, when we look at our weaknesses, when we look at our triggers and emotions, it allows us to have a deep understanding of why we do things and how to avoid possible situations in the future. I think something that's really, really important is really looking at our values and really making sure that we're running our business on those values. And we are actually looking at the purpose behind what we're doing when we do it. And when we think about that and we can understand all of these areas of self-awareness, strengths, weaknesses, emotions, again, it allows us to let go of things that we shouldn't be doing in our business. And that opens up the room for more energy to focus and really harness on the things that are really going to push us forward and make us successful. So we have to understand how these factors influence our decisions, our reactions, and our ability to adapt. How many of you have a deep understanding of self-awareness? Or where do you feel like you have strong self-awareness? Like, this is my trigger. If this happens, I know this is like something that drives me crazy and I shouldn't be handling this in my business. I need to hand it off. Or, like, I know that, like for me, like I can't deal with unhappy customers. I got to hand that off. In reality, like no one wants to be lazy, right? No one wants to not succeed or push forward. It's the fact that these people just don't have the capacity to grow and the desire to grow. And when we think about it in that way, it shifts that mindset from like anger and resentment to more empathy and solution creating, right? So I think that is something to start thinking about. Also, when we talk about the people pleasing and we talk about being empathetic and having that nice balance, I think when we think about that, like having clear boundaries, expectations, and standards. And when we have those things set up, when it comes to, having empathy because people have things going on in their lives, we can be like, yeah, like I get that, like life happens, but they still have to meet the standards that you have in your business. So it's like having that accountability and then being able to let go and being okay with that,
I feel like one of my strengths is definitely identifying triggers and identifying my emotions. I'm pretty self-aware emotionally, but I really struggle with challenging my reactivity the next time those triggers come up. I kind of continue to like act the same way, even though I know what's happening, which is frustrating.
I think we have to stick to our core values. We have to stick to our vision and our mission because that's what's going to cultivate our culture. And the culture is the number one thing that you should really focus on as a business owner because that's what's going to keep your team. People can do hair anywhere. They can do it on their own. They can do it at another salon. But what really keeps them in our business is the way that they feel in our business and the way that the business impacts them on a personal level. And that is all going to go down to core values and our vision and our mission and the environment we create. So when we talk about resilience, like we also have to think about that in a way that as a leader, we have to be resilient by holding our team accountable. Without accountability, that's when everything kind of becomes like a big mishmash of just things happening, right? And it's hard to hold people accountable. There's so much fear about losing people, losing, team members, like having people not like us. But again, when we have resilience, like resilience allows us to do what we need to do in our business to keep our business going. It also allows us to, remove some of that emotion because emotion runs really, really high. But as a leader, it's our job to be able to control our emotions and be able to make decisions based on facts, logic, and not emotion in our business because our team is going to be making all of their decisions based on how they feel. And us as the leader has to do the opposite. So when we talk about building resilience, and this is so important, I think this is something that all of you should really kind of take advantage of while you're in the group is establish a supportive network. I think as a salon owner and a business owner in general, it is really lonely. Even our spouses don't understand the magnitude of what we go through. They try to be empathetic. They try to listen to us, but on a deep level, they don't really understand because they're not going through it with us, right? So we have this group and this community where you all can lean on each other and vent and like bounce ideas back and forth, sometimes even gain confidence because we have to make decisions. And sometimes going into the decision making, no matter which decision we make, it's hard because we don't know if we made the right decision, right? So when we build strong relationships with people that are on the same level as us, going through the same things, it helps us build that confidence that coincides with resilience. And when we connect with each other, or even just people who are other business owners, not necessarily salon owners, it helps us actually make the decisions we need to make. And it helps with support and even constructive feedback. Sometimes people want to give us advice and it's just not well received because we know that they aren't going through the same thing that we're going through. So when we have a group of peers that we feel confident in, that advice usually is taken a little bit differently because you feel that person is at the same level and understands what you're going through. So I think, really taking advantage of the group, really kind of connecting with each other. And if you do have a question or a struggle, or if you feel like you need to share something, don't hold back. That's why the group is there. So you can create those connections and really make sure that you are getting the most out of what's happening inside of the groups. I think this is something that I have fallen off of lately. And I was just talking about this with my friend, Shelly, is setting realistic goals and expectations. How many of you right now have a clear vision of what you want over the next 5 years? Where you want your business to go, the revenue you want to be brought in, personal goals, like if you want to buy a house, or if you want to expand your freedom, or if you want to expand your income, that you're taking home. How many of you have clear goals on that? I don't. I'm not going to lie. This is something that I've been thinking about. I think about, and I want all of you to think about, because this is what I was actually just like going through my mind this morning. How many of you dreamed of where you are today 5 years ago? You wanted a salon, you wanted a team, you had this clear vision of what that looked like 5 years ago. And now you're like sitting in that vision, because that's what's happening for me. Like I'm sitting in the vision that I created 5 years ago. What that awareness brought to me is, if you don't have a clear vision of where you want to go in the future, you're not going to go anywhere. Like you have to have clear goals and expectations of what you want for your life in order to manifest that and bring that into existence. I also want to talk about the energy that we have when it comes to bringing things into existence and manifesting. When we get into our businesses, a lot of us live in fear. We live in fear of revenue loss. We live in fear of team loss. We live in fear of not having success. And I feel like that fear can take over and we lose that positive energy that's needed to manifest the things that we want for the future. So when it comes to having clear goals and expectations, when we have these things written down, and I want you all to literally daydream today and think about what you want over the next 5 years. And when we continually go back to this type of manifesting, it brings us back to that positive energy of hope, excitement, and that positive energy of what the future holds for us. Without actually being proactive in doing this, it's very easy to sit in negative energy and sit in fear of what we don't have or what we're afraid is going to happen. It also allows us, when we do this, when we sit and we really think about and daydream about I want you to daydream about big shit, not like little shit. It gives us a clear picture of like what we need to do and where we need to go, right? Like all of us can say like, I would like to go to California, right? Like that's a pretty big state to be like, I want to go to California. Like if we like decided that we wanted to go to California, like, yeah, that's kind of like, a good a good visual, but we would start driving and we wouldn't have any direction on where to go, right? Because we don't have a landing point. If we're very specific, like I would like to go to San Francisco in California on this street, like at this time, then we can make a real plan on how to get there. And it's the same thing with our business and our personal lives. Like we have to have a very clear vision and a very, very detailed goal and expectation. And then we can actually start creating that for ourselves. So if you do not have an idea of where you want to be in a year, 2 years, 3 years, today's the day to start really thinking about that. So you can start visualizing it, and then you can start living in the positive energy of that instead of living in the negative energy of what business can create for us. I would like you to think about that. And then when we actually have like a clear vision, then we can take those larger objectives and those larger goals and start to break them down into like mini things that we need to do. And I want you to start like just visualizing these things every single day. And then it will help you create decisions and it'll help push you forward. And again, this is going to help you build resilience, because when we have a clear understanding, like we're driving to California, right? We're driving to San Francisco, we're going to come across roadblocks, right? And like when we don't have a clear vision of where we're going, sometimes if we hit one of those roadblocks, it stops us dead in our tracks, right? Because we don't have an idea of where we're going. But if we have an idea of where we're going, San Francisco, when we hit that roadblock, we're like, nope, I'm going to San Francisco. This is where I'm going. Then we're going to figure out a way around that roadblock. And we're not going to let that roadblock stop us in our tracks. So I would like everyone to set clear expectations and goals, and nothing is too big. The bigger, the better, actually. And I think this also is going to help set the energy of being more positive, because right now if we're going to get kind of woo-woo, like the next 3 weeks is a very negative energy that's happening in the Kabbalah world. So we want to stay positive, but the only way that's going to happen is when we're actually proactive and we actually work towards that. I also want everyone to really think about where you were 5 years ago. And I want you to celebrate how far you've come. Like I remember that I wanted a podcast. I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to help other salon owners. I wanted a successful salon. Like these were all things like 5 years ago, like it didn't seem attainable because I was on such a struggle bus. And now when I look back, I'm like, holy shit, like I have all the things that I want. So we need to look back so we can celebrate our successes and we can really see how far we've come, because that is going to eliminate resentment. Because sometimes when we feel stuck, it can definitely make us feel like there's no hope, and we don't want that, right? We want to track our progress and track our growth. Again, that's going to help you build resilience, because when we see that growth is happening, it allows us to think about the bigger picture and not get stuck in the small vessel energy. Oh, and one last thing, take time to think about what worked and what hasn't. Like when we think about like all of the hurdles that we've experienced in the past, again, that's going to give us the idea of what we can focus on and the steps we need to take in order to keep on growing, so we don't make the same mistakes as we did in the past. So this is something that is important because when we talk about resilience, I feel like resilience is also the ability to manage emotions and stress. And when we don't have resilience, stress and negativity can definitely flow in. And this is also going to move into self-awareness as well. So when we talk about managing stress, like there are certain things that we can do that eliminate or that help us push through our stress levels. For me, like I need to talk it out. I need to bitch. I need to vent. I need to work it out verbally with my friends, like anyone that is a trusted source. For some of you, it may be yoga. It may be meditation. It might just be, sitting with yourself in quiet. Having that self-awareness of what that is for you is going to help you effectively manage the situation, because you'll know how to decrease your stress level. We can live in the stress or we can manage the stress. And managing the stress actually takes time, and it takes thought, and it takes effort. So what is that stress elimination thing for you? If anyone wants to share, I would love to hear. How do you guys manage and eliminate your stress or work through your stress? Getting out of town and being away from everybody also is something that is effective for me. I don't know if any of you have ever looked into human design. Have you ever looked into human design? Yeah. There is a human design app, and I can't remember the name of it, but I'll send it to you. But I love it because it really is so spot on. And that was one of the ways that like really helped me navigate, because it's like, this is how you alleviate stress. And it is like, I have to talk through my problems. So I would check that out, like just redo that and then like see if there's anything that is like the information that it gives to you, if there's anything that resonates with you, and start practicing it. And then like exercise, I always say is a great stress relief for whoever, it works for me too.
I think you probably know better than anyone that I like to talk it out a lot.
Which is great.
Between waiting for like responses between friends and other salon owners, I just have to like be busy. So anything productive, which I have to be careful with because that can be toxic and very avoidant also, but it really does help to just like clean my environment or organize or do something kind of unrelated, but also keeps me busy. I find very helpful.
Okay. So a next thing is maintaining a problem-solving approach. Anytime something negative happens, I always like to find the solutions in the situation. I think what's really important in this is we have to remove the emotion, which is so funny. It takes practice, but like I can feel like when like situations arise in my business, and my manager, of course, is always the first person to know most of the time because I'm not as present as she is. And I could feel the emotion coming from her when she's like sharing this problem with me, right? Because like she's so focused on the problem. Whereas I'm just like, I hear what she has to say. Like, of course, I'm like, well, that's shitty. But like, I'm always like, okay, well, we just do A, B, and C and we're done. And she's like, oh, okay. So we have to take the emotion out and we just have to focus on how do I solve this problem? What is the best solution for this situation? I also always ask myself, like, what system can I put in place so that this doesn't happen again? So for example, we had a stylist in the salon who did an extension client. She wanted to use Afterpay, and for some reason the Afterpay wasn't working. So she let the client leave without paying for her extension service, including the hair. Didn't get an ID, didn't get a credit card, nothing, just let her go. And it's like, oh, my manager will send you an invoice later. We sent her the invoice, she never paid for it. But of course, like I'm the leader, like I have to stay calm and collective. And I'm like, okay, so what is the solution for this problem? One, it is apparent that my stylist did not know that clients cannot leave without paying for a service. So there must have been some sort of miscommunication, or just like someone is naive and unaware that people are not good most of the time and they try to get things for free, right? So solution number one, share with my team that they cannot let clients leave without paying for the service. Last case scenario, if the client does need to leave, then we need to get a picture of their driver's license and get their credit card information, right? So that had to be shared. And then, of course, like now I have to deal with this person who is now not paying for a service she received in my salon. And the only way that makes sense is, hey, I'm going to file a police report for theft of services if you don't pay for your $2,000 hair service. Did she pay for it? Yes. Did I want to bitch her out? Yes, but I didn't. My manager, high emotions there, of course, like she's angry with the stylist. Like it is your job as the leader to level out the situation, to remove the emotion from both parties, to bring some calmness, and then just to say, hey, it happens. Here's the solution. And we need to do that with every single situation. And it's very hard and it takes a lot of practice, right? So really kind of focus on solutions instead of feeding into the emotion of the problem. It's so easy to feed into the emotion, right? People connect on negativity. It's like a human nature kind of thing, right? It's a way that people connect. there's like trauma bonds and all these things that happen. It's so much easier to like get together and bitch about things than to actually create solutions for things. And that is why as leaders, like we need to focus on that because we set the example for our team too. If you are somebody who feeds into the emotions and feeds into the reactivity, your team is going to do the same because they work for you. They work for you because they want to be like you. They work for you because they admire you. They look up to you. So you have to be your best self because then that's going to push them to create the same outcome and do the same thing. So we cannot get stuck on obstacles. We can't get stuck on the emotion of the things. We just have to focus on the solution and that's it. So we need to make sure that we handle the situations in the calmest way possible. And honestly, if this didn't turn out and she didn't pay for the service, again, there's a lot of emotion there as a business owner and fear because we lose out on money, right? Like there's so much fear around money. We have to make sure that we are, again, finding a solution for our own emotions and finding a safe space to bitch to somebody who is not in the business, who has nothing to do with the situation so that we can go in as our best self, right? So I really want everyone to find that person and find that safe space so that you can get yourself back to center so that you can tackle the issues in your business as your best self. So everyone needs a support system. So find out what and who that is for you. Okay, so we have to be able to adapt. How many of you, your team has a real hard time with changes? Is anyone struggling with that? My team, when I first opened my salon, would like have a meltdown every time I made a change. Every single time it was like meltdown city. Like, oh my God, we're changing this again. Oh my God, you always are switching things. Oh my God, I just never know what to do because this is always different. Yeah, that's what you have to do in business. We have to pivot. We have to change. We have to embrace change because that's where growth happens, right? If we keep on doing the same thing over and over, it's insanity because we get the same result. So as leaders, we have to understand we have to embrace change. We have to adapt to change, and we have to always look for opportunities because if something isn't working, we need to shift and pivot. My team now, when we talk about change and adapting, my team trusts me. And I think when we build that trust with our team, when we have to make changes, it's smooth sailing because they know we're always doing the right thing for the business. So I think we have to always have the mindset of innovation, improvement, and we have to be flexible. So I want everyone to think about like, where is something in your business right now that like you are not changing because you have fear around it, because it makes you feel uneasy. If you have fear around something that you need to shift or pivot, we need to work through that fear and we need to make the change because we're just going to sit in mediocre, staying the same. Nothing is going to improve. So again, we have to foster resilience within our team, teach our team how to be resilient, teach them how to critically think and how to problem solve. Because when we empower our team to take on challenges, it helps them grow. It also helps them find fulfillment in our business. And that is the only reason that why people are going to stay with you is because they're finding some sort of fulfillment in what they're doing inside of your space. And we have to recognize and celebrate successes. I think that's huge with your team. Like anytime they're doing something good, always make sure you point it out because that's going to help build that. And then help them again, view their failures as opportunities for learning. So the way that we do that is we obviously have to hold our team accountable, right? Like, but there's a way that we can have them look at what mistakes they've made in our business and ask them, like, what did you learn from this? Instead of going right into like management, like micromanage, like, you know, from a place of like, I can't believe that you did this to, well, this happens, problems happen, things come up. What did you learn from the situation and what are you going to do differently? And that's going to help shift their consciousness around the way that they look at mistakes. And it's also going to give them the courage to try and grow. because so many people are afraid to make mistakes, when in reality, mistakes is where their growth lies. So that is holding our team back too, because they have this fear of making a mistake. And when in reality, if we have this mindset, there are no mistakes, there are only opportunities for growth. It helps them actually expand their capacity as well. Emotional intelligence, I talk about this all the time. We have to develop emotional intelligence, and that's the ability to understand our emotions, not make decisions based on them, and be able to control them when it comes to difficult situations and heightened situations in our business. This is going to help us navigate through stress. It's going to help us build resilience through challenges. And then, of course, my favorite is practice reflection and self-evaluation. Every single week, at the end of the week, just take 5 minutes and evaluate how you did the previous week. On a scale from 1 to 5, how was your leadership this week? On a scale from 1 to 5, how do you feel like you were as a parent? Really taking a look and just actually recapping on your previous week and really self-reflect on, did you do your best? We can try to do our best all the time, but unless we actually really evaluate what that looks like, we can't put effort in for the next week. So really assess your experiences, assess yourself as a business owner, assess yourself as a leader, and any other area in your life that you want to grow and that you really want to improve. You have to take the time to see where the opportunities lie to be better the next week. Of course, coaching, you all are in coaching. I feel like when we seek professional development opportunities, when we seek the opportunity to connect with others, it helps really grow your resilience and your capacity as a leader. Okay, so by actively working on all of these strategies that we went over today, you can enhance your resilience as a leader. You can set positive examples for your team, and you can foster a healthy, adaptive salon. Does anyone have any questions before we end today's session? And of course, this is recorded, so you can always go back to it and visit it. I will see all of you in band. Bye. Thanks for tuning into the Elevate podcast. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. The Elevate podcast is hosted by me, Patricia Nowakowski, and produced by Opulent Beauty Pro. To receive my free business guides, visit opulentbeautypro.com/free or click the link in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram at opulentbeautypro or at Patricia_Nowakowski_OBS. If you love this show, please consider subscribing. See you next week.